People were not aware he was actually Amadioha in disguise. When he had committed that sacrilege by nearly wiping off the existence of creatures his father Olisa Chukwu had created, he couldn't face his father and rather left their abode, coming down into the human world. For 1,000 years he moved round the earth, hearing of great and evil things Ikenga was doing in his absence. At first, Ikenga took his right as the first child and led many people to serve him. O.G.B.A.N.J.E, their last brother, watched with utmost dismay at what Ikenga was doing and distanced himself from Ikenga. He went to live in his abode, awaiting the day Amadioha would return. Everyone worshipped Ikenga and forgot there is a god called Amadioha who seemed to have gone into oblivion. With time, his memory was erased from the surface of the earth. The only two people who had always remembered him was his brother O.G.B.A.N.J.E and his father Olisa Chukwu. One day he came across a small village called Udum and decided to stay in the village for the time being. He wandered alone, aimlessly round the earth for so many years that he nearly forgot who he was until the day he came across Alaolisa. Amadioha had once met the princess of O.G.B.A.N.J.E whose name was Alaolisa. Alaolisa, O.G.B.A.N.J.E, and her maidens had gone for a walk when they met Amadioha. When their eyes contacted, Alaolisa and Amadioha fell for each other, and there their love story started. She taught him a lot of things and showed him the beauty of the human world, and Amadioha once again became himself. They got married in Alaolisa kingdom, but Alaolisa's love for the human was so much that she pleaded with her kingdom and Amadioha, her husband, to grant her permission to dwell amongst the human. After much pleading, Amadioha pleaded with the O.G.B.A.N.J.E queen mother to let his wife Alaolisa dwell with the humans. Her mother, hearing from Amadioha, granted Alaolisa permission to dwell with the human, but with a condition. Alaolisa would never remember who she was until the day she departs from the human world. Amadioha decided to go with his Alaolisa to the human world to keep her company and look after her, since she would have lost memories about her past life. Alaolisa entered the womb of Chidinma, O.G.B.A.N.J.E's late mother, while Amadioha entered the womb of Nena, Ebuka's mother. Unlike Alaolisa, who doesn't remember a thing, Amadioha on the other hand did. So from their tender age, he became friend with O.G.B.A.N.J.E, knowing fully well that O.G.B.A.N.J.E would someday grow to love him as she once did in her kingdom. Ebuka slept off, dreaming of him and his Alaolisa together. Only time will tell what would become of them, but for now he has to protect his Alaolisa from every harm, especially now her stepmother had gone to acquire more powers from his brother, Ikenga. He knew what Ikenga was up to, but was he ready to reveal himself to his brother? O.G.B.A.N.J.E had told him to be patient to see what Ikenga was really up to. He will have to wait to see what Ikenga is up to. He also knew of the old woman O.G.B.A.N.J.E usually help, the Eze Nwai. He had sometimes accompanied O.G.B.A.N.J.E to the old woman's hut to help out with her chores. He was only waiting for the opportunity to open her eyes to see who the old woman was. He knew one day the cat would be let out of the bag. "My beloved daughter, I thought I told you that the water you had fetched the previous night for me would be enough for me to use till the next Eka market day. Is that not what I told you, my daughter?" The old lady, whom O.G.B.A.N.J.E usually help almost every day, asked her when she saw O.G.B.A.N.J.E in her hut the following day. She was surprised on seeing O.G.B.A.N.J.E. "I know that, Mama. I only came here to see if you needed anything, like preparing food for you." O.G.B.A.N.J.E answered cheerfully as she stared at the old woman. "My beloved daughter, don't worry about that. Even if I am that old, I can make a little food for myself." "Okay then, Mama. I will check on you in 3 days' time. Take care of yourself, Mama," O.G.B.A.N.J.E said and left the old woman hut. Do you think Adaku would come back to her senses before it get too late for her? One of the coven witches, Ijeoma, asked the Eze Nwai as they had converged for their usual meetings. "I can't say, Ijeoma, but all I know is that Adaku is gradually digging her grave little by little with her knowing," the Eze Nwai said. "Only the snail that wants to commit suicide eats salt," she added. "But what about the gods she spoke of?" "Aku is a god who carries out the orders of Ikenga, just like the way we are at Aku's beck and call. Let's leave Adaku for now and carry on with our meeting. Who is the next member to sacrifice her own flesh and blood?" "Who are you and what brought you to this place?" O.G.B.A.N.J.E asked the stranger in front of her compound. The stranger was sweeping the compound. She had woken up early that morning to do all her house chores, so which will afford her the opportunity to visit Ebuka, but was surprised when she saw a handsome, dark, masculine and vibrant young man sweeping in her father's compound. Although she wouldn't deny that the unknown young man was handsome, but she quickly chased away that thought in her mind. "As you can see, my beautiful Ada, I am sweeping for you," the unknown man replied. "And who are you, if I may ask? In fact, who sent you to sweep my compound for me? Or did I tell you that my legs and arms are broken? Or you no longer know the way to your hut again, Okuya?" Ogbanje threw all at once at the stranger. "Adamu, Ada Marama, I left my home, my village, to come here and sweep for you." Ogbanje quickly interrupted him. "But did I ask you to sweep the compound for me, eh? Did I beg you?" Ogbanje said, but came to a halt from her rants when what the stranger said digested very well inside her ears. "Wait, oh, did you just said you left your village, your own village, to come here to sweep what I did not ask you to do? Does it mean you are not from this village?" Ogbanje asked with surprise. "Exactly. I came from the neighboring village, Eze. I have heard about you, how you rejected the proposal of Obinwan." "All right, so what is your name, stranger?" "Oh, I am Ikemefuna," the stranger replied. "Okay, Ikemefuna, you can now go." "What did I do now, eh? Why are you chasing me? I only came here to help you out and maybe be your friend, is that bad?" "Yes, I don't want to alert anyone here. If you don't want trouble, do yourself good and leave this compound before I shout and announce to the whole village that we now have a rapist in our midst, and mind you, my voice is longer than a gong." "It hasn't gotten to that extent, Adamu. All right, I will go, but be rest assured you will be seeing me from now henceforth. Let me start going before you shout." Ikemefuna said and left the compound, weaving at Ogbanje, who stood transfixed and confused. Ebuka felt the presence of Ikenga amongst the people of Udum. He held a look of confusion as he pondered. What is he doing here? Has he suspected that I am now living in the mortal world and has come down to investigate? Mbanu, I hid my scent very well that even my father cannot sniff me out. He came down for something and I am going to find out what exactly it is, Ebuka told himself. Nothing can ever bring his brother to earth away from his abode, except he had picked an interest on something. He is determined to find out. His question that was left hanging and unanswered was, what could that be? "Why have you been staring at me like I have grown 3 heads?" Ogbanje asked Adaku, her stepmother, who had been gazing steadily at her. "Nothing, I was just thinking," Adaku replied without hesitation. "By staring at me as if you want to strangle me to death? If it is so, then please look somewhere else." Without uttering a word, Adaku stood up from where she sat, giving Ogbanje a scornful look, and she dashed to her chamber. Ogbanje's dream. Ogbanje found herself at the crossroad, a Y juncture. On the spot she was standing, rays of white light emitting, but the 2 parts ahead were embedded with darkness. Not afraid, but her eyes were full of surprise. She saw 2 men standing in both paths. "My beloved Adaolisa, come to me, come to your love Amadioha." The young man in the shadow of the dark spoke up. "Who are you? And what am I doing here? Why did you call me Alaolisa?" "Who is Alaolisa?" Ogbanje asked all at once. The second male on the left path answered instead. "I have brought you here so you can choose between the both of us who will be your husband, him or me," he questioned without any feelings of remorse. "Alolisamu, do not pay any attention to whatever he says, for I am your..." Ogbanje woke up from her dream. "Thank the gods it was only a dream," she said as she looked round her hut. But on a second thought, who was that one that referred her to Alaolisa, and why does the second one keen on her choosing between the both of them? This was really a strange dream. But why will Amadioha said that she was his Alaolisa? Something is definitely fishy somewhere. If she was truly the Alaolisa as Amadioha has said, then why hasn't he revealed himself to her? Why does he only speak to her through his voice? She heard a noise outside her room. Who could be the one that is outside by this time of the night? She shifted herself from her bamboo bed and slowly made her way towards her hut door. She tiptoed quietly towards the hut door. Opening the door silently and quietly, she quickly took a peek outside and was surprised to see Adaku, tied up in white wrappers. A red headband was on her head. She was carrying a pot. Her face wasn't the Adaku she knew. Ogbanje observed what she was doing. Her eyes were used to the dark, and so she was seeing very clearly. Suddenly, the old woman whom she usually helped appeared. She transformed into a young woman, almost making O.G.B.A.N.J.E to shout out in surprise. What was the old woman doing here at this ungodly hour? Did she know Adaku? Adaku, the old woman began as O.G.B.A.N.J.E listened attentively. I know what you are about to do. Adaku waved her hands in the air around them, in attempt for Okoro's household not to hear their conversation. But O.G.B.A.N.J.E wasn't affected by that act of hers. Killing him will affect her greatly, and if I do not kill her by then, I will kill Ebuka or turn him against O.G.B.A.N.J.E. There, you keep on saying that, but I know you are fighting a lost battle. Killing O.G.B.A.N.J.E's father will make her descend on you with her wrath, O.G.B.A.N.J.E warned. I am not scared by a mere little child who calls herself O.G.B.A.N.J.E, all because a strong god is with her. In case you have forgotten O.G.B.A.N.J.E, I no longer belong to your witch's coven anymore. I also have a strong god backing me up now, O.G.B.A.N.J.E. I am now above you, more stronger than you can ever think. O.G.B.A.N.J.E. The old woman she usually helped was one of the Amusus witches they have in the village. Not only that, she is the O.G.B.A.N.J.E of the witches' coven, and Adaku was one of them, planning to kill her and her father. This would definitely cause her to see the other side of her which she hardly bring out. Adaku, if only you really know what you are up against. Do you know that O.G.B.A.N.J.E is being protected by her two mothers and her husband? Leave this lost battle of yours before you die in it. Does she knew about the strange man calling her his wife? What two mothers and husband are you speaking of? Because the only one I know is dead, Adaku asked. One was her mother from the previous world, which is too powerful, and the second one you killed. O.G.B.A.N.J.E is the princess and her husband is the one that has been protecting her from all our attacks. Don't be too deceived by your new powers. They said the head that hearkens to the voice of the wisdom shall be praised alongside with its body. O.G.B.A.N.J.E said and hit her legs twice on the ground and transformed back to the real O.G.B.A.N.J.E. I only came here to give you a final warning. It is up to you now, Adaku. O.G.B.A.N.J.E warned again and disappeared. O.G.B.A.N.J.E was silently watching and listening to their exchange of words till end. And for the first time she was rendered thoughtless. So O.G.B.A.N.J.E have two mothers, Adaku thought as she silently made her way back to her hut. She tiptoed back to her bamboo bed to think about what she had just heard from her so-called stepmother and the old widow. Ebuka smiled as he watched everything that had transpired between the O.G.B.A.N.J.E and Adaku. He had been the one to have waken up O.G.B.A.N.J.E from her dream his brother Ikenga was planting into her head. He knew that Adaku and the O.G.B.A.N.J.E would meet. At least now his Alaolisa has known the true color of the old witch and that of Adaku. He has to go to the O.G.B.A.N.J.E world to inform the queen what have been going on. So you mean he came back? Ebuka questioned. Yes, Ebuka, I met him at the stream when I had gone to fetch some water my stepmother would use throughout that day. O.G.B.A.N.J.E answered, repeating herself once again. She was planning to tell him about the discussion between her Adaku and O.G.B.A.N.J.E, but left it for another day for now. She was going to tell him how Ikemefuna had paid her a visit again, early this morning to tell her she would be his sooner or later. Adamu, you know that I love you so much, right? Ebuka asked all of a sudden. He felt it was time to let his feelings out for the girl he had grew to love with all his being. I already know that, Ebuka. You know, I have always loved you and have always carried you in my heart, O.G.B.A.N.J.E said. Finally, she was able to confess about her undying feelings for Ebuka. It is time she embraces love for her. And I love you, Ebuka. I have always loved you right from the first day, O.G.B.A.N.J.E added quickly. Good Ada, you have no idea what that word means to me. I am finally happy you said those words to me. I am so happy I waited all these years for your love, Ebuka said, his face radiating love. But promise me, Ada, that if this stranger comes back for you again, on no account should you reply whatsoever he asked of you. Inugo, do you hear? Ebuka added, as he stared at his beautiful Alaolisa. O.G.B.A.N.J.E nodded her head, then rested her head on the shoulder blade of Ebuka. In a hidden spot, Ikemefuna watches them. He nodded his head. He ran off from his hidden place with an inhuman speed. What Ikemefuna didn't know was that Ebuka wasn't a mere human whom he would soon toss. Suddenly Ebuka felt it and stood up unexpectedly, looking around him carefully. What is it, Ebuka? Did you see anything? Ogbanje asked all of a sudden. She was confused and uneasy at what Ebuka was doing. He was here, Ogbanje. I felt it, Ebuka said hurriedly. Who was here and why did I not felt it like you did? Ogbanje asked. Ikemefuna was here, Ada, but he's gone now. I think he had stalked you and followed you into this place, Ebuka replied back nonchalantly. I see, Ogbanje said, but became confused. But how were you able to sense his presence, Ebuka? How did you know it was Ikemefuna that was here? Ogbanje added suddenly. She had finally felt the presence of someone faded scent. But how did Ebuka got to know before her